Thank you. I'd like to call to order the regular session, public session meeting of the school committee for Tuesday, March 20th. I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda and recommendation that next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we meet in another workshop, and 6 o'clock host a school committee meeting with the only agenda item being the superintendent's evaluation. Therefore, we would move that from our agenda this evening. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. So moving right into comments from the public. Hi, Mr. Dixon.
Good evening. A couple of things on my mind today. There was some discussion at a school committee meeting in the fall that I saw on NCTV because I was out of town. And during that discussion, there was talk about eliminating coffees next year, principals' coffees. And I'm totally 100% against that. This year, principals' coffees have been reduced from 8 to 5 as we added a new school. So that's kind of understandable, but I didn't think we needed to go down by nearly 40%. But nonetheless, to go from 5 to 0 now is, to me, really, really a bad decision. And at Michael's coffee on March 8th, I asked him to rethink, the school committee to rethink that discussion. And Michael said that they kind of rethought it because they were here, at his coffee. But I think what the discussion was about was eliminating coffees next year. And I just want to be on the record as saying I think that's a bad idea. And every person with whom I have spoken who has attended coffees also thinks that's a bad idea. I haven't talked to a single person who has attended coffees in the past who thinks that eliminating them is a good idea.
Okay.
The second thing I want to talk about is teacher evaluations. The only information that's on the website is for the school year 2015-16. And out of 93 tenured professional status teachers across the 3 schools, every single one of them was rated either exemplary or proficient. Not a single tenured teacher was rated as needing improvement. And I think that that's just incomprehensible, that there can be 93 tenured teachers. We could have the MCAS scores that we had the following year, and yet not a single one of them was rated needs improvement. What that tells me is a couple of things. It tells me that you guys aren't taking teacher evaluations seriously. And it also tells me, I certainly infer this, that since we have really, really lousy MCAS scores in grades 3 through 8 and math in high school last year, and there doesn't seem to be any tenured teacher who needs improvement, what you're telling the community is that it's not your fault. You don't have any responsibility for that. And by the way, fewer than 1 out of 6 non-tenured teachers were rated as needing improvement. What you're saying, in effect, is that's the student's fault. That's the parent's fault. Maybe even that's the taxpayer's fault. But it can't possibly be the teacher's fault. The fact that our test scores nosedived in 2017, and that for 4 consecutive years, each of our 3 school percentiles fell, and yet there aren't any teachers that need improvement. That's all I got.
Thank you very much.
Tenured teachers.
Thank you very much for that. We appreciate it, and I'm sure each committee member appreciates you bringing that to our attention. Regarding the coffees, my understanding has always been that those are an administrative decision, and the conversation was centered around a lack of attendance and thinking about other ways to engage people in the community and parents in the conversation. So perhaps at some of the attendance in future coffees, you can help us brainstorm some ideas to increase that attendance so that there's a higher impact value for the community in the information that's shared there. But thank you very much for your comments. Any other comments this evening? Ms. Maylou?
I would make a suggestion to piggyback the principal's copies. The superintendent superintendent's coffees, the curriculum director coffees, that 8 o'clock on a Friday morning for most working parents is not optimal, and that parents appreciate the administrators that make an effort to change the day of the week or at least the time periodically, so that even if you only get 10 people at a coffee, the 10 faces are different, so the net has a wider cast, and that Friday mornings at 8 a.m. or Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. is really, 8 a.m. is working time for almost everybody, and that we need to look at scattering them across the week.
Great. Thank you so much for that feedback. Yes.
I'd also
Hi.
like to just build on that. I think although it would be great to always have them in the school building, I think we live in a very small community, so maybe even having them outside of the school at other locations might be good because it would encourage other people that maybe don't come into the schools to meet us at places where they might feel comfortable.
Great. Thank you so much. Are there any other public comments this evening? Well, thank you all for your feedback. We'll move right along to presentations and discussions of issues of interest to the committee. And we'll invite Michelle Brady up for a student support services update. Can you join next to Zona there. Yes. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Welcome.
So I think you have the student support services little chart.
Yes.
So I can just kind of briefly go over that. So for people that don't know me, I'm the Director of Special Services, including Special Education. Started here July 1st. It's great to be here. So our chart basically dictates some of the services and the roles of the people that we have in our school district to support students. And they're listed by school. So we have the elementary school, the intermediate school, CPS middle school, and the high school. So you'll note that we have shared guidance counselors between NES and NIS. And we also have another full-time guidance counselor at each of the elementary schools. We have 2 full-time at the middle school, and we have 3 full-time at the high school. And we listed many of their responsibilities, including crises intervention, classroom instruction, scheduling, social skills development, new student registration, assisting in terms of when to evaluate a student, assisting with the 504 process as well. We have 2 school psychologists in our district, so we have one that is shared between the elementary and the intermediate school, and we have another that is shared between the middle school and the high school. That particular school psychologist is a .8. She works 4 days, or equivalency of 4 days. We have 2 social workers in the district, again, shared between the schools. We have some behavioral specialists, including a BCBA that is contracted with the district. These are people that come over to Nantucket. They provide a lot of consultation to our principals, to our teachers. They do some work with students. They model for our teachers. So it's a little bit of built-in professional development for our teachers, as well as planning and consultation, occasionally to parents as well. So we're very lucky to have them to help with our students, particularly students with autism or students with behavioral issues. Moving along to the back page, we are very lucky to have the equivalency of a 1.0 person to do translations. This is like a great asset in our community to help us translate in Spanish at our meetings as well as some of our documents. We do contract out for the Portuguese because we don't have anybody in-house to do that. But this is a great help for our Spanish-speaking population.
Michelle, if I could,
yes.
if I could just interject, I want to remind the school committee that in the budget process, we have put in for a second district translator. So if and when the budget is passed, that will be available to the district as well.
Right, for next year.
you.
Because you can imagine, they're very busy, especially when it's report card time and progress report time. There's a lot of documents that they're helping us to translate. And then for the school nurses that we have there, and the Superintendent Kozor had mentioned to me, because again, it's my first year, we have increased our nursing here from last year. And we also have 2 school resource officers who are very integrally, can't pronounce that word, sorry, involved in our school. And it's great to see them. They assist with traffic, they assist with any issues, and it's great for the students to have those role models in our school, and obviously to help with any particular safety issues. And then moving on to the special education services. We are fortunate to have 6.8 teachers at the NES school, and that includes preschool. So we did expand our preschool program. We have the equivalency of 13.4 teaching assistants. We have 5 special ed teachers at the NIS school, 6.5 teachers at the middle school, and 7.5 at the high school. We don't have 98. I think that's a typo.
That could be a typo.
That's a 9.8.
9.8.
Sorry. TAs. That would be a lot of TAs. We'd have like
Sorry
3
about
in
that.
every class.
That's the ideal, right?
And I do want to mention that
Sometimes
in
it's
terms of
okay.
some of the special ed teachers, they're wonderful. We have, we do have to provide various programs because we are on an island, back on the mainland or off island, as you Nantucket people call it. We have programs that are day schools, collaborative schools, where if a student wasn't successful in the public school, that we had those options. And here it's just really not feasible to send students to day schools because they'd have to get on the boat, and half the time the boats aren't working or whatever. So we do have to provide our programming here, and we have teachers that have certification moderate disabilities. We have a lot of teachers that are Wilson certified or Orton Gillingham certified to teach specialized reading instruction. So we're very fortunate to have that. And then the next piece just talks about our therapists, our related service providers. So we have 3 full-time speech and language therapists. One of our therapists is bilingual in Spanish. We have the equivalency of 1.2 occupational therapists. We have a speech and language assistant, and we have a CODA, which is a certified occupational therapy assistant. And then we have a 4-day-a-week physical therapist. We do also contract with additional related service providers as needed. And then the last piece just talks a little bit about some of the programs that we offer. We have to provide a continuum of supports anywhere from inclusion support to pull-out instruction to a separate programming. Some of our programs are IDSC, intensive, Peter, you can help me, developmental support center for students with autism, intellectual impairments, options for students with emotional, behavioral health, behavioral issues. Our LBLD is our language-based learning disability program that we are offering at the middle school and high school. And we have a consultant that helps us with that from Landmark School. We are offering 4 integrated preschool classrooms or sections, and also an intensive, substantially separate preschool program. We provide consultation. We are doing some RTI, so even for students not on plans, that we're helping staff to and the students to help them learn the skills that they need. And then we also have an alternative program here at the high school for at-risk students. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. Any questions for that piece?
Yeah. Thanks, Ms.
Start on
Nice
that
to have
side.
you here tonight. I just have a couple of questions, and I held off until I knew you were coming in to present. I've got a question where we've been talking about school safety, and we do the drills and practices. And I'm just curious, are there any special trainings or sensitivity for our children with special needs when they're going through these drills? I mean, I think it's scary. I've participated in drills when I worked for the community school, and I think they can be very hard and emotional for adults. So we know they're hard and difficult for the kids, and I'm just wondering if there's any special attention or notification when that's happening, that we can help protect our children who have sensitivities.
Yeah, if I can jump
Sure.
in, I know that in the elementary school, and I suspect in the intermediate and middle school and high school as well, especially the first time that drills are going to happen, they take precautions and prepare the teachers to prepare the children. But maybe you want to hear from Kim or Eve Marie or Peter or John.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
So whenever we're going to do a drill the first time, including fire drills, we talk about that, the teachers teach about that, and they teach the children and they practice that. And so that sort of happens informally. And then our first fire drill, we give people the heads up when it's going to happen. Because it always happens, it must happen in the first 3 days of school. So they do warn kids and tell them we'll be doing this on Friday. So they help to prep. I'm not sure, was that where you were going, or is it something you're wondering we do for children?
Also, kids with the significant needs or that we know that the sound of the alarm or the strobe of the alarm is going to have some kind of potential impact on those kids, then they are also given a heads up for any of the drills that we do.
Mm-hmm.
We walk a fine line with the fire department and police department, who really want some of the drills to be as authentic as possible. And so where we push back is with that population to make sure that they have a heads up and that they're in a spot in the building where they can be safe and continue with their day, because they don't necessarily know what is going on.
Right.
But the practice is important so that it doesn't feel so frightening or uncomfortable and scary.
And back in the day when I first started, I was a teaching assistant with a child with autism, and the philosophy was to kind of shield them from that. But then there was research later on that these are the kids that do need to have that practice. And there was actually in some schools that there was some catastrophes because they didn't practice the fire drill. So we teach them, as you said, we support them, we try to, reduce that simulation, but they do need to practice. And I think that it's been going pretty well. Like, we'll even provide support. We know, when it's happening, or to help those students.
And the same, like with the lockdown and everything.
We do. We've purchased evacuation equipment for students who might need help getting out of the building. We also connect with our school resource officers and the Nantucket Fire Department to identify areas of the building where there could be children who need extra support in getting out.
Great, thank you.
Eve Marie.
Thumbs up.
And I'm just curious, I guess maybe just a percentage, when you get recommendations or requests for children to have evaluations, are some of those evaluations coming from the classroom teacher as well as parents? And I'm just curious what education might be going out to parents, maybe more so with children who are at NES and NIS that may have their first child, who may not know some of the signs or even the pathway to get an evaluation. So I would assume that teachers are still doing a fair amount of requests.
Yeah.
So teachers of my building, and that's probably carried over for you, we do a multitude of things before we get to the evaluation process, which would be the child study process, where you collect all of the data, you reflect all the different ways you've tried to teach something, the interventions you may have employed, and the effect of those interventions. And then once we get beyond so many of those, then we come to the evaluation table. That's the way it would come from a classroom teacher in the public schools. The private schools, the teachers just send over a request for an evaluation, and parents can make a request for an evaluation at any point.
Right. So, and we do what's called child find activities. So, especially for the students that aren't already in school. So the young children, we'll send a letter every year to doctors, childcare agencies. Are you suspecting that, your child might have a disability, just so that they know, because I think our teachers are pretty good about, this child isn't making progress. This is what I've tried now we are thinking it might be a disability, but we are required to like reach beyond that. And as Kim mentioned, there are a fair amount of, students whose parents ask for an evaluation particularly from like the private schools on the island, and we are still obligated to assess and evaluate anyone that lives here, basically. So whether they're in our public school or not. I don't have the exact percentage. I feel like it might be 50-50 at this point. I think that for the students in our public schools, that there might be more of a tendency for that student to then actually be identified as having a disability, especially if they've been here, within our public schools, as opposed to parents that sometimes are just curious, they're not sure, they just kind of want to make sure that they don't have a disability. But if it's from a team process, that often does lead to an IEP. Not always, but often.
And we still have a strong, robust program with our preschool and early intervention, and we're still doing
Yes.
that. And, good.
Yes, yeah, and screenings, we have, on Friday mornings, they do a round of, it's called a clinic, and they invite students in to be screened or to be evaluated. And we are working, closely with Head Start, and so it's.
Thank you. I just feel like I've been out of that loop for a little bit, so it's nice to get refreshed.
Just to reiterate something that Michelle said earlier, we did increase from 2 to 3 in our preschool program this year, building that up, and there is discussion about increasing. In fact, we had a meeting today to talk about the numbers and look at next year, and it's possible that we will have to find funds for more. We have a lot of children that are on the horizon with on the autism spectrum, and so we need to increase our staffing for that. So that conversation, I joined Kim and Nina and Michelle and the preschool teachers just today. So they are looking at that, always trying to figure out what we need to do to be able to meet all of the needs of the children coming in.
It's great to be prepared.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Jen, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm wondering if you could give us an idea of the additional contracted services needed, like roughly how often is it needed,
Okay.
and what's specialties?
Right, good question. So we have several consultants that come out and consult with staff. So I already discussed the BCBA. He comes out 2 days every other week, so it's basically like a 0.2. And then we have a behavioral specialist. We actually have sort of 2 behavioral specialists. They're doing different kinds of things, but they're working with the administration, the staff, on specific, program development, as well as students with behavioral issues, trying to figure out how best to intervene with them, helping us with behavioral intervention plans. And then we have our landmark consultant who works on the co-teaching piece with our teachers, does a lot of observations of the classrooms. And then we have a consultant who works with our IDSC teachers. So those are like sort of our program consultant and helping us, our teacher capacity. Then we have our related services consultants. So we have a speech and language pathologist that does 2 days a week. We bumped her up a little bit more with a departure of our preschool teacher who retired, who was also an SLP. So we needed some more speech and language time. And then we also have a occupational therapist who works 2 days a week as well. And am I forgetting anybody?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in
Yeah.
and let you take a look at your notes. But during the budget time, I think we talked about this a little bit. One of our challenges is when you're trying to find somebody for, 4/10, 0.4 or 0.5 or 0.6, it's very challenging. We would rather have these people be our staff than contracting. But The island factor makes it difficult. When you're on the mainland, you can have another district that hires somebody for 0.4, and you hire somebody for 0.4, and a third district 0.2, and all of a sudden you have one person who has a full job and they meet everybody's needs. Here, that is far more complex and far more expensive. You know, and there have been years in the past where we have flown people over to provide a contracted service, and so obviously we'd much rather have that person. We did this past year lower the amount that we were spending on speech language therapists and our occupational therapist, and brought in one of our own.
OT, right?
And so when we can do that, it's a far better move and a bigger bang for the buck and more services.
Right.
But those people are few and far between. If you want to guarantee your college child a job, have them go into OT, speech, or PT, because they can write their ticket about where they want to go. Everybody is struggling to find people, quality people with those credentials.
Yeah. And we are looking and interviewing for a speech and language pathologist for next year that would replace that 0.2 SLP. So we are trying to, again, build within, and because we also have to sometimes pay for the travel costs. We're not flying anybody over, but we're ferrying them over. So, yeah.
When the boats are running.
You're right. And that's the other thing is, we want them here to help
Right.
the services with the students. So,
Right.
yeah.
So right now, it's about 2 days per week that we're contracting extra services?
So 2 days for the SLP, sometimes about maybe 2.5, and then 2 for the OT.
Okay.
Yes.
And physical therapy?
She's here 4
Okay.
days.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Zona, did you have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
And I did have, unless you had another question, I had
I
another
had a
little
couple,
piece.
but go
Okay,
right
sure, go ahead.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, I seem to recall, and maybe this is something that you don't wish to continue on, but in previous years we've had a bit of a breakdown of the requests for services versus people who are admitted in the programs, and also some historic data on numbers of students with IEPs and number of students with 504 plans. Sometimes I think that comes out in the budget information, but that I think when we're special, having a special presentation on a department, that kind of information would be helpful for us to just understand.
I think that's coming, right?
It's coming.
Because I did ask
That's
if I was
coming,
supposed to do
and
that.
because Michelle asked the same question.
Yeah.
But we do a special education update in May.
Okay, so this is really just
those
focusing on
numbers, right, this is a little bit more social emotional supports.
Okay, wonderful. Because
but
sometimes
we
we
will
kind of
have
get
that.
focused on the staff, and it's so hard for me up here to understand the
Right.
staff relational to the number of students who
True.
are requesting the services.
Right.
And curious to see where we are compared to the state.
Yes, it's always helpful. So I'm glad to know that will be coming up. I think that's helpful, and probably to bring back the staffing chart with that conversation will be helpful for the committee at that point. And then I guess, just because we've got you up here to, get a sense from you of the now that you've been with us for several months, the challenges you see. I think sometimes we love to hear from administrators, this might make Mike feel a little uncomfortable, the wish list, what you're seeing are some needs. And I think as the committee starts to understand and prepare, certainly its district goals for the next year, where are some of the gaps as you see them, and some things that we need to be paying attention to as a committee as they make policy or budget recommendations. And you don't necessarily I don't want to put you on the spot, but I also think these opportunities for you to be in front of the committee are opportunities for
Right.
you to be prepared to answer some of those questions for us and fill us in on where you see some of the challenges and opportunities. So, don't feel under the gun
No, I
to
can
answer this tonight.
certainly
Yeah.
discuss a little bit. I think some of that was already reflected in the budget with the additional speech and language therapist.
And
That we are seeing more needs for, with communication disabilities.
Yeah.
We are seeing more needs on the autism spectrum and more needs in preschool. So I think those are covered. We are hiring another intensive special ed teacher at the middle school because, again, we need to have programs at every level for our students, and that's also in the budget. And then that other wish list was a team chair to kind of
Yes.
assist with that. Some of the timelines, we are getting evaluated by the state for our coordinated program review, and that's one of the things they look at are the timelines. How long from the time they had the meeting until the parents get the IEP, you
Right.
know? And that's how we're assessed, and we need to make sure that we get those out quickly. And then just aligning, now we have 4 different schools, and every school, has their own individual culture and obviously needs based on their students, but we want to align our practices for eligibility from one school to the next. So there's that consistency,
Yeah.
that we're following the eligibility guidelines, so that team chair person might help with that.
Yeah.
Um,
I was thinking about that when you were reporting on the staff positions about the team chair position that was proposed, and if the budget goes through, will be filled, that can really, and again, that position and sort of knowing the numbers and knowing where those
Right.
challenges are in your timeline, how that position is going to help support ultimately
Right.
getting the children the services they need as quickly as
right,
possible.
efficiently as well.
Mhm.
And then, the other challenge is, how do we define, disabilities, and what are the supports and early intervening things we can do before we get to that point? And that's something that as a district, we're looking at, just improving teaching instruction all the way around. And when we see a struggling student, what can we do to get that student that help earlier than waiting until they're,
Yeah.
failing or not making progress to then go through that process. So it's something that, the principals and I have been talking about and looking at more of a MTSS kind of process.
Mhm.
And
Great.
and then the challenge of, the language, how do we
Yeah.
define a disability if the student doesn't know English or, is recently came here, their education was interrupted before. So there's some challenges in that. It'd be great to have more bilingual,
Yeah.
evaluators or staff.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess my only comment, not necessarily directed at you, but, for future committee consideration is I think we've had a lot of conversations around, the social work team and the services these 2 full-time positions provide for a very large and ever-growing, student body. And I don't know where it will fall in your priority list in coming years for budget conversations, but I think at a certain point we have to just start to really pay attention to, are the needs of our students being met in that, with only 2 people in those positions.
But we do have counselors too, so they help with a piece of that as well.
I understand, and I'm just questioning whether that's sufficient.
It's enough, yeah.
And I think, we don't need to answer that tonight, but I think it should be a topic of conversation that we have our finger on the pulse of going forward. So, are there any other questions, or Michelle, do you have any other
I
comments?
just wanted to just comment on the other piece that we've been doing is the behavioral health group, and that Pauline is a member of that. We meet, we've met 3 times. Unfortunately, the weather, March, we had to reschedule. We'll be meeting again next Tuesday, but it's just a way that we have brought together the community resources, and we're partnering and collaborating for the safety, social, emotional, and mental health needs of our students. We're reviewing our emergency protocols, our health curricula, and so that's been, a really good thing that we've been doing. And I'm sure we'll be, talking about substance abuse and other things and revisiting that. So
It's a really important
Yes.
subcommittee for school committee members to be a part of. Shoot, there was something you said. Just evaporated. I'm sure it will come back, and
Okay.
maybe I'll mention it at the
Yeah,
end of the
I'll
meeting.
be right
You'll
here.
be here.
I'll be right here.
So
So
Yes,
Michelle
I
can
did-
stay right
can
there and
stay.
introduce.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. We'll move
our
on to our
guests.
next item, which is the Special
Okay.
Needs Advisory Council update with Michelle and
Okay.
Laura Kabadi and Shauna Larrabee. Can we make room up
Sure.
here
Oh,
for them?
And you
to-
want me to still stay here?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Come on.
That's fine.
think we had a nice big full table tonight. Why
So
not?
we're very fortunate to have a very,
Welcome, Laura and Shauna.
very involved Special Needs Advisory Council. So great people.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the welcome. It's great to be here. I am Laura Kivati. I am the secretary for the Special Needs Advisory Council. And I'm here with another SNAC board member, Shauna Whitmore Larrabee, who's our communications director and social media liaison.
You're doing a great job, by the way. I follow it on Facebook, and it's nice to see that there's the spreading of the announcements is going out through social media, and it seems like you have quite a nice following now. So
It
bravo.
is, yeah. Shauna's done a great job. Some beautiful graphics on the Facebook page, and also on the Facebook page, just below it. And I brought my iPad to show it, but it's tell me again. It's Snack is the Facebook page, and Snack. All the flyers are on there for all the different programs and presentations and workshops. And tomorrow's meeting, the invite is out there. So yeah, it's a lot of energy behind that, which has been great. In addition to Shauna and myself, the SNAC co-chairs are Jessica Douglas and Laura Steele. The SNAC meets monthly from September to May and is attended by a vast group of parents and guardians of children who attend both the public and the private schools, as well as community resources such as Fairwinds Center, Autism Speaks, Nantucket Star, Nantucket Alliance for the Mentally Ill, and we also have guest speakers who come and attend the meetings. A key and very active participant in the SNAC meetings is the Director of Special Services, which is Michelle Brady, obviously. And I don't want to embarrass Michelle, but Michelle has been an incredible resource for this group.
Excellent.
She is a true liaison between the parents and the schools. She has a lot of connections, contacts, ideas. So when we're in meetings and parents are puzzling over a question, Michelle obviously has the answer right on the spot. Or she'll say, let me check with somebody at the schools and I'll get back to you. So she's a great communicator, and it's been really powerful having her in our group. Our meetings are a twofold format. So the first half is our business meeting, where we follow our agenda and read our minutes and approve them. And the second half consists of a less formal parents-only support group. And both parts of the meeting are very lively and very productive. They have a lot of energy, and they're usually filled with a lot of humor. One of our first group exercises at the SNAC was creating the SNAC mission. And that was a great icebreaker and a team builder for the group. The SNAC mission is at the bottom of our agenda and our minutes. They're also at the bottom of our bylaws, which I believe everyone got a copy of. Thank you, and thank you for getting those out to everybody. Our agendas have gone in the beginning of the school year to just very small agendas, like let's talk about ideas. Let's vote on the minutes from our last meeting. And now we have these very full agendas. What we've done, what we're working on, and what we hope to accomplish. So it's a lot of activity. I have to confess, it was more than I even anticipated. So a lot of great programs from. We're lucky on Nantucket. We have an amazing pool of local talent, and a lot of those are our teachers that teach these workshops. So things on dyslexia, and tonight there's actually one IEPs at the college level, which I didn't attend because I'm in denial that my son's ever going to get that old. But there's some really great programs, and then we recently had Christine Riley from the Federation of Children with Special Needs came. Braved some dodgy weather and came over and did a fabulous presentation. And that was kind of a sample set of the beauty of our community, where everybody comes in and takes a piece. So Michelle had coordinated getting the speaker, who was amazing. Autism Speaks took their Perfect Pals, if anyone's familiar with the Perfect Pals, to provide childcare for our children. So, it was great to see a lot of dads there. There's a lot of dads there. So moms and dads came together because our children were being given this fun play date to play with lunch and everything like that. And it was held at the Boys and Girls Club. So they coordinated. It was just this very collaborative event, and it was amazing. It was It was very, very well attended. So we have a lot of goals. They're obviously in the bylaws, but a constant goal and focus that we have is to make parents aware of who we are and that we're there as a resource. So a lot of parents, and I know as a parent of a child with special needs, that some of the best advice we get and support is from other parents. And another thing that I know helps parents and caregivers is education, always being empowered to learn something new, and to be able to take that and apply it to your own situation. At SNAC, we really encourage all parents to come who have an interest. So it's not just 504s or IEPs. There might be a need that a child is having that could be anxiety or a fear or something that's happening, and those parents of those children are invited to come as well. And that's basically what we do and what we keep doing.
Your energy is contagious. And really, it's been really wonderful to see, and it's been a marked shift in how you're choosing to communicate with the public right now. And so again, I mean, aside from Facebook, I think that all of the outreach that you're doing, and I think seeing some of the other parents take some ownership of helping to share that message has been really wonderful to see. So bravo on a job well done. Do any committee members have any questions or comments?
You're all welcome to attend anytime. Our next meeting is tomorrow night.
I have a couple of ideas.
Yes.
And since I only have 3 meetings left, I am not holding out on my ideas. So one thought I just had was that if you do a monthly or maybe quarterly newsletter of SNAC, that the administrative team is so used to sending that out and pushing that to all the schools, I think it would be really great for all parents to receive that newsletter, not just parents with children who are identified as having special needs. So in your little bucket list of their wish list of things to do, I think that would be really wonderful, or a segment on SNAC in those weekly newsletters. So it's, they take us 2 seconds to read. We read them early in the morning while we're making coffee and getting ready for the day. And you've got so many great things going on that all parents should know about. I think that would be a wonderful addition. The school committee, for the 9 years I've been on it, we've had members sometimes attend meetings, but not with any real regularity. And certainly, we have members who are on the student behavior task force and who sit in on different things. So perhaps when you do committee assignments, just to keep SNAC on the list to see if there's a member who would like to volunteer to attend meetings. I know we can't make every meeting, and we are a small board with a lot of great things going on, but I do think it would be nice to have one member who showed some sense of commitment to attend the meeting. So it's always wonderful to see what's going on. My only other question for you would be, to please, or comment would be to please know that you have an open resource, either through Michelle or directly through the superintendent or to the chair of the committee, if you are seeing issues or concerns that are coming up time and time again. It's really important for SNAC to have the freedom and the opportunity to come and present those to us at any time. You don't have to wait for an invitation. So, knowing what's happening with our special needs students and their families and what challenges and opportunities they're facing is really important for this committee to know. So please, don't wait for the once a year invite to show up on the agenda. Feel free to keep to keep those channels of communication open.
Thank you. We'll make a note of that for tomorrow. We have our meeting tomorrow, and we're on our own agenda to report back on what happened tonight. So we'll definitely take that with us.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for everything. Okay. It's a great idea. Yeah.
That's terrific.
I've always wondered why we didn't have someone volunteer to do that. So.
It's easy for you to say.
Easy for me to
Leave it.
say now I'm on my way out. Okay, wonderful. So the next guest tonight would be Hadley Dutra, the president of the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools. Join us, whichever side of the table you feel. It's easy right there. And Hadley, thank you for
You want me to pass
coming
something
to.
out?
I do have some handouts, both for the committee and anyone who would like to see them is here tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some more. We got it. Okay.
I just want to make sure that
Thank you, Colin.
Oh, that's all right. No, that's fine. Give him the hand back.
Did I get one of each too?
You did.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Mom, and I've got it.
Back.
Get you back.
Great. Okay, and these are some additional
Extra.
copies for the community. Thank you, Mike. Okay, well, welcome and thank you for bringing everything. Go right ahead.
Thank you for having me. My name is Hadley Dutra. I'm the president of the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools. And for those of you who aren't aware of what we do, we are a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is to support the work that everyone does within our school district by providing supplemental materials or supplemental presentations and assistance with existing programs in some cases. So I've had the honor of this year being president. I've served as co-president in the past with Marion Wilson, who some of you may know, who has been a great mentor to me. And we've had some changes this fall. We have a brand new executive board. So that includes myself as president. Heather Woodbury is our vice president. Kathleen Stover is our secretary. Nan Gilch is the treasurer. And we created a new position within the executive board of community liaison that is being fulfilled by Sarah Boyce. And I think we've done a great job of collaborating and working together and, of course, trying to attract new members. I mean, that's one of the challenges we have as a parent-teacher organization. We need to always be open to new people coming onto the board and fresh ideas going forward. I think that's instrumental to our cause. So I created this just to walk you through some of the things that have taken place this year. We have an ongoing funded program called our Staff Initiated Fund. For as long as I've been on the board, that has been a grant that we have received from the Nantucket Golf Club in the amount of $15,000. That amount is spread equally between all the schools. So in the past, that amount so each school in the past has received $5,000, but with the introduction of the intermediate school, that number has decreased to $3,750 per school. So we're going to be going back to the golf club and asking that they increase to $20,000 this year, and hoping to get that. And that handout you have about staff-initiated funding details all of the materials that have been purchased within the district this year using those resources. So you can see they're put to good use. You know, oftentimes we do our budget and, you know, teachers haven't thought of everything they needed or need something different, and this allows the teachers to come to the principal with requests, and as long as the principal signs off on that request and we have the money in place, we generally just approve it and write the checks out. So that's a very important program of the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools. We have a teacher coach fund. We award $1,000 annually for professional development. This year we've awarded $800 so far to 3 teachers for professional development. The children's fund is $10,000 annually. That's also a very fundamental program. Each student in the district is allowed to receive $85 per calendar year, which doesn't necessarily seem like a lot, but when it comes to the difference between whether or not to play soccer or whether or not to sign up for an art program or to try something new, it can make that difference for a lot of parents. And that amount is used annually, completely used up annually. The Corky Ranny Community Service Scholarship is awarded to 2 graduating seniors for excellence in community service. We have 2 $1,000 scholarships. The enrichment program is a program that allows us to bring in speakers and additional funding for a number of special things within the district. And Logan, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but she has chaired that program and brought in this year's screenagers, the presenter Mike Smith, and we're doing some enrichment in the NES and NIS clusters. I don't know if you want to elaborate at all tonight. Or, okay.
Just quickly, we are quickly bringing in a program to address diversity and tolerance and substance abuse, sort of a 3 for 3 all packaged together. Actually, the gentleman that's coming in May, we're just working on 2 possible dates to be around. And that will be 6 through 12. It will not be for the elementary school, just because it's really the age-appropriate area for this. And it was in talking, I had shouted out to the principals about some thoughts for next year, but we really thought with the climate of what's been happening over the year outside the school, in the world, the community, and within the school walls, we just thought that it might be good to put in a little bit of an injection here. So it's happening rather quickly, but I'm glad that the funds exist to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Logan.
We provide snacks for MCAS as well. We created a new fund called the Maria Partita Fund. Maria Partita was awarded the Nantucket Bank Person of the Month Award, and she gave her check for $1,000 to the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools. She is on our board. We decided to create this fund to help bridge a gap between the non-English speakers in our community, both students and parents, and the English speakers in our school community. Maria has been instrumental in being a leader in that community, and recently we were able to take $540 of this fund and use it to pay for some of the dinner offerings that are occurring now through the Parent University program that Mike Horton has started at the intermediate school. We felt that was a good use of the funding. This is a program that provides dinner and supplemental Title I tutoring for MCAS. So any student can attend this tutoring, but it's certain students have been targeted and asked to come to and it's twofold. It creates help for the students in MCAS, but also creates a sense of community within the school because they're in a provided dinner. It's a different format where you're seeing your teachers and fellow students in a different light. So we felt that it was a great use of that fund. On the fundraising aspect of what we do, the Holiday House Tour continues to be our largest fundraiser by far. This year, that event netted $39,156, which was up from $25,084 the previous year.
That's amazing.
We also have a number of community events, such as the Bike-a-thon that takes place in October, which is a really fun bike ride from the elementary school to Surfside Beach and back. The Spelling Bee that occurred in February. We have the NES dance that occurs in the spring. And those events are community-oriented, but you can see they do bring in significant amount of funds. And the Summer Drive-In is our second largest fundraising event. And that last year, that netted $10,643. So just doing some math this year, combination of our fundraising events and our grants, we have brought in over $75,000 into the district. So I'm proud of the work that we do, and we work hard, particularly on the fundraising events. Some of them have grown to the extent that we're challenged by, the responsibility there. So we're looking at creative ways to continue to sustain these events. I have done a lot of outreach in terms of asking different parents to join the board. But, as people have busy lives and busy schedules, it's difficult for someone to commit. I've chaired the Holiday House Tour for the past 3 years. I'm not going to be chairing it again this coming stroll weekend. But we, it continues to be something that, that event's 35 years. So, people look forward to it. They count on it happening. We get a huge influx of both visitors and local residents that attend it. And this year, we were just overwhelmed with the amount of people that went through the homes. We had about 900 people go through the 5 houses that were on the tour.
Orange Street will do that.
Orange Street, right? Yeah, Orange Street was the location this year. So, and the, so that's one of our challenges is the fundraising aspect and continuing to have large events open to the public. And, another challenge is, as president, looking at the perspective of carrying on traditions and also, meeting the new needs within the district. So I'd like to think we are able to do both successfully, on the board. And I'd like to open it up to any questions anyone may have.
Quick question. I'm curious as to how students or families find out about the $85 that they can use to purchase.
That's a great question. They find out about it through sports teams. In some cases, in some cases, they've posted it directly on their websites and said, if you, please take advantage of this fund from the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools. We're hoping that guidance counselors are putting it out there because one of our goals is to try to really target certain kids that need a little extra push, and have the guidance counselors, do that for us, recognize some students in the community that could use some supplemental, enrichment activities after school and target those kids and tell them about it. So those are a couple ways.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One comment I just want to make, the sign up genius that you use to try to attract volunteers, I think that is a really creative idea. And I think that goes out to all parents, correct? I think that is a really good idea to get, hopefully.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I thought that was a really
It was
nice
a change
addition.
this year.
Yeah.
That was a change this year. We have not used a sign up genius before. But in an effort to try to reach out to every single parent in the community and have it be a transparent process where everyone can see, where the slots are that need filling.
Exactly. What time, what is needed.
Yes.
It's very helpful. And hopefully that helped.
It did help. We had a problem. But the day before the Holiday House Tour, the Sign Up Genius failed. Oh. And we had to call and do some, I think we paid a fine to, our fee to speak with an assistant. But we were able to resolve it. But it was extremely stressful at that time.
That's too bad.
Hence, she's not doing it this way.
It was a really creative idea to get more
and we've used it for the
volunteers,
bike-a-thon. We used it for large and small needs. I think
the Boosters Club has used it a couple of times too. I've signed up. I never considered myself someone to be working at the Shack, but I got the email and I was like, I can sell merchandise.
Exactly. It puts it in
So it's
perspective
nice.
when you see exactly what you need and it's like, oh,
Well, I
okay,
appreciate
feel
you
like
saying
I
that.
should
Because
sign up
there's
and
a
help.
concern with, we've talked about it on the board, how to attract volunteers. And you can always say to people, please volunteer.
Right.
But that doesn't really translate for most people. They say, they need it broken down into a very specific task. And then they can say, okay, I think I could commit to a half hour.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I can get a free ticket to the Holiday House Tour if I stand in a home for 2 hours. So there's a whole message that goes along with that.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.
And I think, I don't know if you said it tonight, I didn't hear, but I think it's now over $2 million that FOMPS has given to school programming, students and staff. That's an incredible.
Thank you. Hadley.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Hadley.
Great. Okay. So moving on to committee discussion and votes to be taken. May I have a vote to accept a donation from the Friends of Nantucket Public Schools to CPS gift account for a CPS field trip to the Dreamland for the movie, to see the movie Wonder? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the March 6, 2018 meeting minutes? Okay.
Pauline was not here.
Pauline was not here. Well, I will,
Can still-
okay, we can still move that. Okay, wonderful. So you can still make a second if you're not here. Anyway, would we like to have someone make a second and approve them, or would we like to postpone the vote on the meeting minutes?
Can
I feel
postpone.
more comfortable because I wasn't here.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Wonderful.
That's
We'll
fine.
move that to the next agenda. And then a motion to approve transfers and invoices.
So second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Crowsworth.
A couple of things. I just wanted to say that I will pull together for the school committee the most recent evaluations, because I think David's question prompts me to that I'm not sure, because I read the evaluations and there are more needs improvement. So I'm going to try to bring a report to you to respond to that. I wanted to talk just briefly about the student walkout in support of the students and staff who were killed in Parkland, Florida. Whenever you have something that is completely organized by the students, it's a little nerve-wracking for administrators because you're giving up that, control of it. But we knew that the organizers were going to do a good job, and John and Jen worked closely with them to know that they were going to make it meaningful. We talked to them quite a bit, and we said, we want this to be meaningful and respectful. And as it turned out with the weather, we did not go outside that day. But I would venture to say 400 or 500 students, maybe more, filled the Hall of the Whale. The high school students, I think it was well over 90% of the students were in the Hall of the Whale, and the middle school students were coming like ants out of the, the eighth grade hallway. And so a lot of the adults there were sort of welling up, but still a little bit anxious because you don't know how it's going to come out, and you don't know more than anything what will be the response of the kids. And I've already shared this with the school committee, but I think it's important to share it with the audience. You would have been so proud of our students by what they said, the way they said it, and you would have been I was even more proud of the kids that were listening and responding, because they were quiet when they needed to be. They were applauding and passionate, and it just makes you, with all the other negative things that can happen, it makes you remember what our youth can accomplish. And I believe them when they say that was just the beginning, that it wasn't the end. And I think that's what's important. How is this different than Columbine and Benton, Kentucky, and the Amish school in Pennsylvania, and New Mexico, and all of these places that get compartmentalized because that's what our brains do to protect us, but they get put in the recesses of our minds. So the question is, how will this one be different? And I hope that it's different because this one's being led by the students. So they were great.
Is there a video? I heard that-
Yes, there is a video, and I'm not sure. I think that they were editing the video to, so that will come out, and I will share that with the school committee. And actually, we should put that up on our website so that anybody could access that.
And do we have Veritas come? Well, they were the ones that organized.
They were, and
So could
that
we
would
have
be
them
something
come
that, sure,
at the
that's something that
time
we
and
could
show
do.
the video?
Um,
Great, thank you.
So it was just very, very powerful and very well done. Let's see.
Mike.
On the horizon, we'll set up a meeting. I think you said a 5:00 workshop and then a 6:00 single agenda
Yes.
item on the 27th
Yes.
for the review of the evaluation of superintendent.
Actually, we were gonna do both, weren't we?
Yes,
Both evaluations.
yeah, both.
Well, did we want
Well,
to wait
I-
until April 10th?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I had a note to add to April 10th, the school committee self-evaluation at that meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
I think the issue is that the superintendent's evaluation has to be completed before the end of March, which is why we're having the additional meeting. But the school committee self-evaluation could happen at a
on
regular.
April 10th.
If we could
Okay.
do that.
And,
Oh, sorry.
I'm
I was
sorry,
just-
no.
No, that's great. I was just going to mention, I received a letter from Jim Kelly, who was a superintendent here.
Mhm.
And he was asking if there is a way we could add to our agenda. He was superintendent for
Was he
3
here?
years. 3 years, he
Okay.
said, in Nantucket.
Jim Kelly.
So he asked if we could add to the agenda a discussion on a marching band. And he included pictures of a 1944 yearbook of our marching band for me to pass along, which is pretty sweet. So I don't know if it's something that we can add to the agenda. Maybe ask Eric Wendelkin to come and talk about the band, because this is something he's very passionate about.
He's written to other members.
He
before.
has. He's
Okay.
written to other members.
I know I've received a letter.
Should I put it on the 2nd April
It
meeting?
would be nice if we could have Eric come in and talk about the band, see if there even is an interest with our students.
Right.
But these pictures are fun to look at regardless.
Anybody we
19
know?
Yes, actually. There are. And actually missing from one of them, it says Chris Morey. So,
Chris Morey was in the band.
marching band, the marching band.
I'm gonna have some fun with that. It's,
He's missing from the photo.
he was at the football game and playing. Okay.
So it would be great if we could just add that discussion, because I know this has been something that he has brought up to several of us.
I'll put that on the 2nd April meeting.
Thank you so much.
April 10th, and just for the public, we won't have a meeting on April 3rd, which is the first Tuesday in April, and that's because, am I right with the
Yes.
3rd?
Yes.
That's because that will be annual meeting. So that meeting has been changed to the 10th. The election, though,
Is on the 10th.
is on the 10th, so we won't know the results
No, I was gonna
of
suggest.
that. So we need to move the school committee and task force assignments
Yeah.
over.
And one of the things we just briefly touched on today in the workshop was, whether or not it's the committee's pleasure. Sometimes you have that reorganization meeting the morning after,
Yeah,
at 8 or 9 in the morning. It's certainly a public meeting, but just so that the work of the committee is not waylaid, 1 or 2 weeks
Okay.
by waiting to do the reorganization. So that's certainly at your discretion, but that's how we've done it in previous years.
okay. So we're in pretty good shape, staying on top of our agendas. But annual meeting is the next
That's right.
the next big thing.
one. And Mike, just to the maybe the parking lot. I thought Jen wrote on parking lot, but for that organization conversation would be perhaps adding a position for a school committee member to sit as a member of the Special Needs Advisory Council and discuss that. And I think in some of our review of evaluations, there's some conversation about how the committee would like to participate or have a voice in evaluations. There's so many different types of evaluations that happen from the superintendent to administrators and teachers. Not that they would participate in the actual evaluating, but in some of the process or having some insight, as Mr. Dixon said, into what the outcome of the evaluations is. So I think it's a conversation you'll want to have as a committee, but that may be another subcommittee that you'd like to add.
Okay.
So that certainly just for discussion.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions from committee members tonight?
Yeah, a couple of things I would like to say. I was missing at the last school committee meeting because I had the privilege of being a chaperone for the high school culinary team. They were off in Worcester competing. And I have to tell you, my heart was racing the entire day. It's pretty intense. These students have an hour to prepare an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert on 2 burners. And they get evaluated from the minute they walk through the door, from how they've prepared and stored their goods, all the way through to the cleanliness and how they've ended up cleaning up. Our team was amazing. I was so proud of them. They have really been putting in like they would for varsity sport. I mean, they have been practicing every night. And the food looked amazing. They did place 3rd. And so students came out with some scholarship opportunities. And they were just, I think, really thrilled on the way home. And I think the happiest behind them. But they made Nantucket proud.
Very
so that
proud.
Just
thank you, Pauline.
thank you. I just want to mention the play. I went to see the play on Sunday, Music Man. It blows me away every time. Our musicals and our plays. We've got such a group of talented individuals. And again, the first scene, the first song, I was like, how long did it take them to learn that and get the rhythm of that? And it just was amazing. So kudos to all of the students and to Laura Byrne and Eric McKeever. Nantucket Project, I have the good fortune to sit on the alum circle with Peter Cohen. And last year we had our first winter edition, and it's the idea of bringing Nantucket Project to Nantucket during the winter at an affordable price and bringing in some of the presenters that they have had from past years. It was coincidental, but I think it's been good timing. We were looking at bringing Adam Fost, who is a public prosecutor, and he has really been working hard to educate and change the disproportionate number of people who are incarcerated who are of color. And we will be showing an interview, a very powerful interview that he took place last September. And I'm not going to say any more than that because I think the impact as the interview unfolds is what is powerful. In light of the attack on our island in the last couple of weeks, I think it's an important conversation. It's going to be tough conversations that we're going to have at the project around our prejudice and how we all hold some form of prejudice, and that we must have those tough conversations in order to be respectful and understanding of one another. You can go onto the theater workshop to purchase a ticket. They're $25. You can also email me on the email that's on the school website. If you know of somebody or a student or an individual that would not be able to afford the $25 ticket, there are some tickets available that are comped. And I would ask you to please consider emailing me before the end of the week because we only have a certain number. The event is at Bennett Hall. It's not that large of a location, so I think tickets will sell out pretty quickly. But I encourage you to come. We're also highlighting one of our alum, our own Delroy Lawrence. We'll be telling his story of how he is one of 5 students from Nantucket who will be going to Israel on the international team for Jamaica for lacrosse. And his story really is about resiliency and giving back. And he will tell his story about being a student here at Nantucket High School and really learning in middle school what lacrosse was all about, because Jamaica is not known for lacrosse. And we have 5 students graduated from Nantucket who are on this international team, which is pretty amazing.
What's the date?
March 31st, and it's at 4:00. And then finally, and I don't know if anyone is going to be addressing this, but I understand there's a parent meeting that John Bucky is working on for next week. I just want to applaud you for doing a very difficult job this week. I think your actions were correct in putting it out in your Whaler message of the incidents that happened over the weekend. And I, again, really encourage people to come and participate in, again, a difficult conversation for our community. But it is just another reminder that we are no different from the mainland. And we have to have these tough conversations. And I think, unfortunately, it was just kids being kids. I cautioned a little bit, and there's been a lot of conversation online and sidebar, but I think it's important to have conversations around substance use and issues, but I don't necessarily think that addiction was necessarily the story of this incident over the weekend. I think the stakes have been increased from when I grew up, and kids are going to be curious. And unfortunately, the stakes are much higher now than they ever were when we were young. And so I applaud the kids who have jumped online and had their voices heard, and I hope that we'll get a good student turnout that night. But I just wanted to commend you, because I know it was probably a difficult week for you, or a few days, but I think you did the right thing by making our community aware so that we can support our kids and we can support one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. Are there any other comments to make?
Yes, I just want to give you a little briefing on our policies and safety and security. Policy met, and we are almost through our J's. Almost, right?
Jay's a bear.
Jay is a bear, and we have a few to come back to, but we've almost completed our J policies, which I'm happy about. Safety and security met on March 8th, and I've been approached by so many people with concerns after, specifically after Parkland, and through our safety and security. And I feel like our administrators are doing this each and every day, but we're constantly reevaluating the systems that we have in place to keep our students and our staff safe. And one topic of conversation that came up was our Nantucket Elementary School drop-off in the morning and what happens. And it concerns us that we have multiple entrances, multiple exits, and even after the bell rings and the doors are locked, there are adults at the building that staff and administrators are unaware of because there are so many entrances and exits. We feel that NIS has a very good system in place. They have one way in, one way out. They have Eve Marie and Elise stand there greeting their students every day, along with multiple other caring, staff members. And we feel that it's time to make this move to NES. And we're looking for the school committee support because this is a big cultural change for our community. But we do not want something significant to happen and look back and say, you know what, it could have been as easy as keeping our doors locked, and in the mornings having parents, say goodbye to their students at the door or in the lobby, or whatever kind of talk, Kim has going on with her staff currently to, roll out a system. But it is very unsettling to me and to the staff members that we have no idea who is in the building, after the doors lock and the bells ring. And I feel that as a school district, we need to be accountable. And if a parent or, if a guardian wants to walk their student in, they should be checking in the morning, giving an ID, receiving a badge. And that way we know whoever is, Jane at the front office can see who is in our building and who has left our building, and we can account for that. We're not asking families, we're not trying to shut families out. We're just asking to change things a little bit so we can make the school a safer place. And I'm asking for the school committee's support. It is something I brought to the policy subcommittee, and we're asking for the school committee's support on this because this is a big change.
Jen, have there been conversations with the student council members at the elementary school about the change?
I'll say that when I was on student council, this was a topic of concern. Sorry, school council. When I was on school council, 7-8 years ago, this
But I
was
mean,
a topic.
recently with this particular
We
change.
just brought it up at the joint school council meeting. That was all of us, but we've not had back and forth conversations except to say these issues are percolating.
I might suggest, I would imagine that this could be a very emotional, difficult conversation or thought for some parents. So I think before I'm comfortable putting out any particular vote or support, I would like to say that we should perhaps have an opportunity where parents can come and be heard and have their concerns voiced. And then that would also give us the opportunity and school administration to also speak on their behalf. But,
But I want to make it clear that we're not telling parents that they can't come in or walk their student in, but it needs to change where they're checking in to walk their student in.
Yep.
So the school knows who is in the building at 8 o'clock, at 8:05, at 8:10, when sometimes the parents are still leaving the building.
But I think it's a hard thing to manage because if you've got multiple exits and you're parking, I mean, it's a long time since I've dropped a child off at the NES, but it's going to be hard to manage that if they're coming in one way, that they're going out the same way so they can sign out. And are you realistically going to give badges and take driver's license from everybody? I mean, so that's why I think the conversation, it needs to be a larger conversation than this. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. I feel like we need to have a thorough plan.
Yeah.
But it is something that has been a topic of discussion for years upon years. And then when you hear about, another school shooting, it's every day you hear about either a weapon is brought into school or something significant. And it seems like a logical next step to know who is in our buildings.
I would just say that, philosophically, I 100% agree with you and the committee's recommendation and certainly what sounds like Kim's recommendation. But I think to Pauline's point, it's so important how we roll this out. These are our youngest students. Some of them have, I know that I walked my kids into elementary school every day, certainly in kindergarten, first grade, as they were learning their sense of independence. So it's an important time for kids to have that attachment and learn to trust adults. And I just think the rollout of it has to be tender and thoughtful and considerate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think to say that, I think the purpose is to get it out there, put it out there that it's something we're looking at very seriously. We want to have those conversations. I think Kim has to have conversations with her staff. And, parents need to be involved. We want everybody to be in the know and then come up with a solution that we can all safely live with and feel that we have put something in place to protect our own.
Yeah.
Be that students, teachers, and the individuals coming into our school. So I think that the goal was to put it out there and see what we can do to bring everything in line. We're taking measures. We have any NIS in place. We know what it encompasses. We built the vestibule for CPS so that we can do a better check-in. We're doing the same thing for Nantucket High School so that we can have a system of checks and balances of who's in the building and how they get in and out. I think it's only reasonable to protect our youngest type thing. And I think rolling it out in a tender way is important. But I'm just going to say this to be the devil's advocate. Change is hard.
Change is hard.
It's hard for anyone. But I think if we work it together, that we can come up with something that we all can live with
Absolutely.
and appreciate going forward.
Absolutely.
So if I may, I've been part of these conversations and I watched what Eve Marie and Elise went through with the change at NIS and there's still some residual, hard feelings over that move. And it was the right move and we stuck to our guns. And I think it's the right thing to do for Kim and Nina to have a forum at NES. I think it would be important for school committee members to be in the audience so that you're not hearing it secondhand from us. And then if the school committee wants to take a vote on this, I think following, that would be the way to do this. And I have said in some conversations, we being the administrators and the staff, we need you unanimously behind this if we decide to do this. And that means when this room fills up with parents who didn't hear about the forum or didn't hear about the change, because that is likely to happen. And so we need to have a united, and I don't just say the school committee, but the administration, school committee, and staff, we need to be united in whatever decision that we move forward with.
I think it would be important to have the school resource officers there as well, because they feel that this would be a very important safety measure that we would be taking to help prevent, to help keep our students and our staff safe. And it concerns me when I hear that teachers feel insecure about their workplace because there are so many entrances and people are coming in from multiple, doors, and people are in the building even after the school day starts, and nobody knows how many, who they are.
I'm gonna, Tracy, did you have a comment?
I have a ton going through my head right now, but I'm totally, as a
Could you speak a little louder? I'm so sorry.
my child's not at NES anymore, but as a parent, I could totally be behind what Jen is saying. And my friends teach in that building, and my friends' kids are in that building. And I get that people want to lock their kids in. And I heard Jen say, we're not shutting parents out. We're just looking for a different route for accountability. I feel strongly that at some point, this committee and our community needs to take a stand at the naysayers on social media. And I would guarantee that if you interviewed parents in Parkland, Florida, and in Newtown, Connecticut, locking a door is a more than fair trade-off to what's happening to their kids. And I think we need to stop being afraid of the parents who shake their fist and backstab us cowardly, not at a public meeting. They don't come to friends boards. They don't come to school committee. They don't go to parent coffees. And they have a wide open forum on social media, and it's awful. And it shouldn't be.
And
Well
really,
said.
this is for the safety and well-being of our staff and our students. I don't see how, how we should be even questioning this.
Yeah, I don't think that I see any questioning on this committee for
It's
that.
just
I
a
think there's just
process, I
support,
think.
but the process of communication is important. And I think we've seen so many times, not so many times, but a few times, some of our very well-intentioned and important policies get caught up in poor rollout and poor communication with the community. So it's an important next step. It's the right next step. I think there's support from the committee to do that. I just think the communication and the rollout of it is paramount because of the sensitivities, particularly around the age group of the kids. So,
I also have a concern, I understand that parents might want to drop off their badge and their keys and go drop their child off. The management of that's going to be huge. I think about the two people who work in the front office, and Patricia works in the front office, and there are parents who come in who need the translation. And I'd be really kind of upset if she now is in charge of checking badges, and, that's a big job, that's like working for the a say.
Yeah, I
We're
think,
gonna work
yeah,
all
the
that.
process
Yeah,
needs to be
that
worked
is
out.
part of
That
the
all needs to be
process.
worked out, for sure.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Hadley.
I agree with what you're saying. But I'm a parent.
Thank you. Thank you.
I totally support that, especially if you're going to allow, parents to walk into the building.
Absolutely.
And I've been wanting to bring up a separate issue, it's kind of tied in to school committee in general, which is my kids take the bus every day. I'm an advocate of the bus. And I think more parents want to take the bus to school. My friends would like their children. I consider that to be one of the safest methods to go to school, frankly, and to provide a drop-off for all the students. Have you ever considered shortening the distance between, the eligibility factor for who can take the bus and who cannot? Because that's something that I've heard talked about. And, that's a question, has that ever been considered?
I agree with that. I brought that up myself as a parent years ago, but I think that might be a question for Mike.
Well, I think it's a policy issue that the policy committee can revisit. I think it's in the e-policies, but we can revisit them at any point.
And I think there's certainly
It does come with it does come with a financial impact. We've added one bus over the years, and if we were to do that, it's a financial impact. We may decide that it's worth
it, absolutely.
worth it, but whenever you're making decisions on finances, it's up against other priorities. We talked tonight about a social worker, and we talked about related services, and today we talked about a preschool teacher. And so, that's all well and good, but we do have to prioritize and decide what's the most important.
I can appreciate that.
Gina?
I do have a possibility. The doors, the kindergarten area locks at a certain time, that parents do tend to come out and open the door for the parent. Couldn't that be locked? There's notes posted or signs that they only go in one way.
I think these are things that
That's
we would
part of
wanna
the
work out.
discussion.
Yeah. These are definitely things
Yeah.
that we'd want to work out, and hopefully in a timely manner, because each and every day our doors
That's
are
right.
open.
We don't want this to take months. This needs to be a quick conversation.
This should be something that we work on as soon as possible, I think.
I think the other thing, if I can add on the safety and security, was that we're on the interior doors
Yes.
at NES and getting lock sets for both sides of all of those interior doors that connect classrooms. So that's, Diane is working on that now.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't know your name otherwise. Nice.
Lauren Murray.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm one of the teachers in support of what Jen just spoke of. I thank you for bringing it up. I think that the sense of urgency is very great in this matter, not only for safety, but also for ease in making the transition. My students in kindergarten are independent. They can walk to their classroom now. If parents feel like they would like to accompany them, that's fine. They can sign in and do so. Now's the time.
Yeah.
They can get to their classrooms now.
Absolutely.
I'd rather see this happening now.
Then in
as soon as
September.
possible than in September,
Right.
Yeah.
When everything's missing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Good point.
We had that conversation.
We did in the
agreed.
policy meeting. Thank you.
Well, will you continue to update us on what the process is for
Absolutely.
moving this forward?
Together though, Lauren.
Yeah.
It's not something we worked going to do. We felt like this needs to be a shared decision.
Yeah,
We'll try and get that together before the end of this month.
yeah.
And it sounds like you do have the school committee's support, if I can say, in working
We
towards
certainly have
this.
staff support, that we know. We've talked about it at safety and security. The superintendent was very clear that, and I was a big proponent of, I'm not dying on this
You're
hill
not
by
leading
myself.
this. Yeah.
I am not going to be the one to go out there and say, this is what we're doing to our youngest people.
It's okay, we'll fall on the sword with you.
Yeah, but I do think, to the point of expediency and, that the forum may or may not be the right avenue, but in your consideration, I think whatever way you have parent input on progress, even here tonight, you've heard from some parents who have some ideas that will help shape the process and the formalities of how this works out. I don't want you to rush it, but I also don't want you to waylay it by feel like, well, the school committee said you have to have a parent forum. No.
Right.
Be the decider of what the best way is to get input and feedback to make the process safe and secure, and do it quickly. I don't think any of us feel that,
We support the change.
right. You know, this is not a trivial matter. So thank you. Are there any other comments tonight? Wonderful. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Yeah.